Welcome to another episode of MrLopezClasses.com. We are going to continue with our marine transmission course. This is the chapter 7. This is the chapter 7 dedicated to lower units. And in this episode, this is the second episode, we are going to analyze how the lower unit works. What is the difference between different manufacturers of lower units? What is the difference between Alpha and Bravo? And what happens if I have a steam drive with inboard gas engine? What type of lower unit is recommended? And what happens if I have an inboard diesel? What type of lower unit is recommended? And what is how the gears engage for forward and reverse? And what is the procedure to do the service on the seals, the procedure to replace the parts, and a lot of tips and recommendations to use the tools, in what scenario you can use the torch, in what scenario you can use the puller, what is the best tool recommended in each particular situation, recommendation about the gear ratio, recommendations about the intervals on the service. I hope you enjoy this video. Danny, in this episode we are going to start with lower units. But I want, if it's possible, refresh to our students the components of the typical lower unit.
Okay. Well, a typical lower unit is just a transmission on an outboard.
Correct.
That's all it
Correct.
is. So you have the drive shaft. That shaft on the top goes to the crankcase.
This is the shaft that enter in the motor, in that motor, the motor that we repair in your shop.
Right. If you look on the video, you'll see where the input shaft comes in.
Okay.
And then that shaft goes into a pinion gear. Okay. How the pinion gear works is you have a forward and reverse. Just like your regular transmission, there's only forward and reverse. There's no other ones.
Correct,
okay?
correct. This one is exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
Forward and reverse, and the same gear ratio.
Same gear ratio.
Okay.
And so here's the deal: when you have the pinion gear, you have the forward and reverse gear. When the engine is running, all three gears are always moving.
Oh, like this picture.
Correct.
Okay.
Always moving. So the only time that the shaft moves is when you engage it. And so you see the shift shaft here.
With this you engage?
Engages. Right, watch. So put it in. See how the shaft moves? And then see how it moves the other way.
Oh, okay, and that one is moving.
Right.
And that one is moving. Can you move it? Okay, and now I am going to put in neutral.
No, too far. Go a little bit down. Right there.
Right now it's moving free. It's in neutral.
In neutral, and the shaft's not moving.
Correct. And now, once again,
There you go.
it's in reverse.
It's in reverse.
Oh, okay. What is the name of this?
This is basically a shift rod. There's a
Shift rod.
There's a clutch dog in here that moves.
The clutch dot that we have on the screen right now
on the screen.
goes forward or reverse.
In reverse.
Oh, perfect.
And if you look at the clutch dog, it has like a little castle. It's kind of like a castle look.
Correct.
And the gear that has the gear on the outside, in the middle has the castle thing as
castle.
well.
Yeah, I know.
So when you engage, it engages. Now, a lot of people say, hey, when I put it in gear, it goes da-da-da. That's because they're either doing it too slow, or there's some kind of binding on the shift shaft.
Oh. If you try to engage the gear too slow, that's not good.
No, you have to put it right in gear. Because what happens is, just imagine two squares, and you're doing it too slow. Instead of just going right in to grab it, it starts eating the edges off, and then what happens? It'll slip over a period of time.
Okay, all right. In that case, the gears are rounded.
Rounded, yeah. The gears, the clutch area is rounded.
Okay.
Once it's rounded, it's no good.
Okay.
And then here's the deal: you can replace just the clutch dog. But the problem is, if you replace the clutch dog, you'll eventually round out the clutch dog to match the gear. So what happens is, what we do at our shop is we do a gear set and a clutch dog.
Okay. All right. The drive shaft?
Yeah, this is your prop shaft.
Prop shaft, excuse me.
Your prop shaft,
Prop
and
shaft.
you have your carrier.
The carrier.
The only purpose of the carrier is to keep the oil into the gear case. Okay?
Avoid that the salt water mix it with the oil.
With oil, correct.
Okay.
So you have a prop shaft seal,
Okay, the seal.
and then you have a big O-ring, which we'll look at a little bit later. You have a big O-ring.
Okay, and you have the big O-ring that
Right.
we are going to check right now. Okay, Danny, what is this?
So this is your bearing carrier, okay? This is what keeps the oil in. So you have an O-ring
O-ring.
that keeps the oil in.
Ah, okay.
And you have an O-ring here, but this O-ring really is not for the oil. This is the main one for the oil and the seals. You have the prop shaft seals.
Okay, can you explain to our student where is the oil?
So the oil is inside here. Okay, so what happens is when this is in, your exhaust comes here, and if you look down the exhaust, you're only going to see this part.
In this area, I have exhaust.
Exhaust.
And
then the oil is from
here
back
to here.
Correct.
Ah, okay. And other portion of oil here in front.
Well, there's no oil in the front. It's just only the oil will be in the carrier itself for the bearings. You
Ah,
have bearings
okay,
inside
perfect.
there.
Ah, because we have needle bearings here, and we have needle bearings in front.
In front.
And we have the seal.
In the seal.
Ah, okay. In other words, if I have milky oil, one possibility is because this seal.
Yeah, and believe it or not, that is the number one seal that leaks.
The fishing lines are the enemies.
Yes. Actually, the fishing line's marine shop's best friend.
Oh, really?
Because we do a lot of them, and most of the time there'll be an indication. You'll see oil running down here, and then there'll be an indication. Or when you trim the motor down in the water, you'll see like a oil sheen in the water.
Correct.
It's usually an indication of some oil spill. So this has to be pulled out. So when we pull this out and you're replacing the seal, then you have a puller and it pulls it out, and then you install them back in. So we've seen in diesel you have two seals, right? One faces one direction,
Correct.
one faces the other one. Yeah. One's to keep the oil in, and the other one is to keep the water out.
Correct.
And that's so when you're taking these seals out, just make sure that you put them in the same direction, and they're two different seals.
Oh, we are going to refresh to our student. We have the seal, and the lips are facing
This lip here is facing out, and the one inside is facing in.
In other words, we have a tandem of seals,
Correct.
back to back, one facing in and other facing out.
Correct.
This one to keep the salt water out, and the other one to keep the oil in.
Now you have to pay attention too, because what happens there are two different seals. Some cases they have the same seal, in some cases. So you always have to look at the manufacturer's manual.
When you say different seals, it's because the material?
The material is different.
Ah, okay, because the dimensions should be the same.
Dimensions the same, but the material is different.
Yeah, of course, and the color should be different.
Well, the color actually they're exactly
really?
the same. That's why it's really easy to get confused, because that's why when I get seals, I put T for top and B for bottom, depending on the part number. But not everyone has different seals. There's some. That's why you have to pay attention to the service manual.
Danny, this is in all the lower unit, doesn't matter the manufacturer, you have double seals over there?
Even the drives, even the stern drives have
of
that
course,
same
the
thing.
stern drive is a lower unit.
Everybody has that seal in the prop shop.
Okay. And difficult remove those seals?
No, it's actually very easy. Once you have it out, there's a puller you pull, and it'll extract it out. The puller kind of looks almost similar to...
Yeah, like the puller that you have on the screen right now. Yeah, it's similar. It's similar to
Right.
that one to remove that.
And it pulls it out.
Okay. And the procedure to put it back with a lot of grease?
Yeah, well, I actually put Loctite.
Loctite. Oh,
Okay?
yeah.
So, and the reason I put Loctite, this is, they tell you, Evinrude, when I went to school, they tell you use Loctite. What happens is when that shaft's spinning, then you don't want the seal to spin at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
So Loctite binds it, because what
It's
happens...
good idea.
Yeah, because what happens over a period of time, the erosion of the metal inside...
On the housing.
In the housing, so that's how to eliminate that.
Okay, perfect. Okay, only to refresh to our students, the oil internally is until this point.
Yeah, and it just travels through here.
Okay, and internally travels here.
Yes.
All right, in order to lubricate the shaft and the bearings in both sides.
Correct.
Okay,
And this is your sacrificial anode
the
in your
anode,
exhaust.
the zinc.
Zinc.
Yes, because here I have a smoke with water.
Water exhaust.
Correct. And this sacrificial anode in zinc should be replaced periodically, according with the intervals, or?
Yeah, well, here's the deal. In order to replace that zinc, you have
You need
to
to
pull
remove
everything out. So most people don't. But anytime there has to be any repairs done on the gear case, we automatically change the zinc.
Yeah,
I know. Now when everybody's willing to spend the money to take it out and replace the zincs.
Danny, in our book of corrosion, we are going to explain our students why zinc is recommended in this particular case, because this housing, this element is in aluminum.
Absolutely.
And there are a lot of manufacturers that fabricate today sacrificial anodes in aluminum. Right. But those sacrificial anodes no protect this because it's aluminum with aluminum.
Correct.
We are going to explain later what happened in that situation. For that case, the zinc is the best.
The zinc's the best.
All right. What is the name of this element?
This is a bearing carrier.
Bearing carrier.
And then what happens is you'll see. So how this works is You have your bearing in here.
Uh-huh.
You have a thrust washer.
Ah, the thrust washer.
And there's needle bearings underneath the thrust washer.
Correct. You have an axial bearing.
Axial bearing.
Axial bearing over there, and you have the washers over the axial bearing. This is a bearing that is working with axial load.
Right.
And engage over there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect.
So this
That's perfect.
spins. Now, remember we were talking about the clutch dog.
Oh,
Look
correct.
here.
The clutch dog enter over
Engages.
there and over
Engages.
there. This one have like a cone,
Yes.
no? But
The sharp side is where the actual clutch dog engages.
okay.
And so what we're talking about, if you don't put it in gear properly, yeah, you'll see the clutch dog in there. If you don't put it in gear properly, it rounds these edges off. And then what happens, it'll slip. That's why it's
Okay.
important that you put it right in gear so it engages right in there.
Danny, we can move it to the other transmission that we have in the other stand, and we continue the explanation of this gear, the other one, and the dog clutch,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
This is a perfect cutaway. We have the situation exactly
Yeah.
like this, no?
It's the same. It's actually pretty much the same gear case.
Okay.
You're just getting to see one that's damaged that we cut away so you can see the internal parts.
One gear for forward,
Yeah.
other one for reverse, and the dog clutch coming in one
Correct.
direction or the other one, depending of.
Right. Depending of the shift shaft that you see.
Depending of the shift
and the
shaft.
shift shaft shifts this. There's a mechanism that when you pull up, it retracts it, and you push down, it pushes it.
And the clutch is moving.
And this clutch dog that you saw in the video over there, that was going back and forth, engages in.
And because those teeth are square,
Yeah.
enter over there.
Has to open there.
In the prop shaft, we have 3 gears in constant movement, like the video, the micro video that we have on the screen right now. One is for forward, the other one for reverse, and the top one is coming from the shaft, from the power unit, from the power head. Okay, the central, one for forward and other one for reverse. And this is the operation, like the video that you see on the screen. And the dog clutch in the middle engage this one or engage the other one. Engage this one because the clutch enter over there and engage in this. The clutch enter over there and engage here or engage in the other one, depending if the clutch is moving for forward or reverse. Okay, and now I understand why you say that you need engage hard.
Hard, yeah. Because
No.
what happens is you'll eat the edges off.
Correct.
And then it'll grab, but then it'll slip.
Correct.
And what happens is it'll bite.
No, this is a perfect scenario.
That's why when you rebuild these, you have to make sure the shim is shimmed properly. Because if you don't have enough shim, what happens, it might be extracted out.
Yeah, correct. Danny, is in some cases you have a little shims here,
Yes.
no? Amount of shims?
Yes, and you definitely have shims here as well.
According with the manufacturer recommendation.
According to the
no?
manufacturer, you have to go by the manufacturer.
Similar to the differential in automotive that the sound increase or decrease depending of the
yeah.
of the shims.
Absolutely, yeah. Because what happens is, think about it. If you have a shim too much or too little, you can actually hear the gears binding.
Yeah, too much play.
Too much play, or if it's binding.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
either way.
correct.
So you'll hear it. Absolutely, you'll hear it.
What is the most, for what reason those gears are damaged? Additional to the water.
Yeah, this one here is most of it's water damage. And what happens, the person ran it and didn't know he had water in it, and you can see how the teeth are all eaten up. And so he didn't know because there's no viscosity. You're running at 4,000, 5,000 RPMs just in water. Well, there's no more lubrication, so what happens is it starts breaking down and it locks up.
Once again, it's a lack of lubrication.
Lack of lubrication, absolutely.
Okay, and once again, when you drain the oil and you see particles of metal,
Right.
no?
So here you have, on this case, it's on the
It's on the other side.
It's on the other side. It's like somewhere around here on the other side, and then you have the hole up on the other side as well. So what happens when you drain the oil, there's magnets in there, okay?
Okay.
There's always metal, but you don't want to see chunks of metal or a really excessive amount of metal.
Correct.
You want to see the oil either really black or fresh oil.
Correct.
If it's really black, it needs to be changed, but it's good. That means you
It's
don't
normal
have
condition.
Normal condition. But if it's milky, then there's a couple ways water can get in here. Okay.
Can
So
you
this
explain?
is what we're going to talk about. So
One
one
is here,
is the prop shaft seal
the seal.
and the O-ring seal that goes in here. See?
That one.
So remember,
that one.
your oil's from here up,
Up.
and that's your oil.
And
seal.
internally. And
Internal.
internally in the
Right.
carrier.
Yeah, if this
Okay.
is cracked or something.
Correct.
So, and then the other one is your drain seals, people forget to change the drain plug seals. Every time you drain the oil, you should always change the drain plug
those
seals.
O-rings. The O-ring that you have on the screen.
O-ring, and sometimes they're plastic. It depends.
No, yeah, I remember
there's
that.
Plastic, there's O-rings, and there's actually gasket material.
Those plugs are with a flat screwdriver. Huh?
Yes, some are flat and some are have Allen key.
Yeah, correct.
Correct.
But because the flat, the people damage that head,
Yes,
no?
yes, and it's because what happens is they use the wrong size. I use a hammer impact, flathead,
okay.
and it gets it out.
Okay, perfect.
And you one shot, but you have to replace the seal. So you not only will it leak from there, it can leak from here, it can leak from the drain seals, but underneath the water pump.
On the water pump here,
You have seals there.
okay. You have another seal over there.
Right. So this seal could also go back, and there's an O-ring underneath as well.
And on that point you have intrusion of salt water.
Correct.
It's common?
Yeah, this seal here and the prop shaft seal are the two most common ones.
Okay.
One, because what happens, you see how
the
there's
play. The play, yeah, I know.
And there's always play in there, but not as much that one, but there's usually play. And what happens is, as this is spinning at 4,000 RPMs and it's doing this, well, it'll wear a groove in there.
And at the end of the day, the seal is damaged.
Yeah.
No?
Okay.
All right.
So that's the only place. So you have the drive. This is what they call the drive shaft seal. You have the prop shaft seal. You have the carrier seal O-ring, and you have the drain plug seals. That's the only seals that you need to
Okay. The
worry
other
about.
possibility is if you have cracks on the housing.
Right. If you have a crack in the housing, you would definitely know. You would see oil everywhere.
Danny, is common the cracks on the housing?
Usually, the crack in the housing, couple reasons that happens. One, either a catastrophic failure inside
When the people hit.
Yeah, or you hit something, or a gear locks up and throws a bearing, it'll throw it out.
Oh, really?
Running out of oil, that's when it'll
Correct.
do
And
that.
the temperature increase
Right. and corrosion.
Corrosion once again.
Corrosion will
once again.
eat this up, man.
Okay.
It'll eat it
Because the people don't replace the sinks on the lower unit
Right.
according with the intervals recommended by the manufacturer.
Zincs are so important,
Correct.
and the students will realize that when they have the corrosion.
Especially if the lower unit is running in salt water. No?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, in most cases, the nice thing, this is what's nice about outboards, is you can trim the outboard up, and then it doesn't really sit in the water compared to something like a stern drive
Correct.
that stays in the water. But if you have serious electrolysis problems, then yes, it will attack it, and you got to check all your bonding system on the motor because they have a little ground bonding system. People tend to cut those because they don't want to deal with it, and what happens is it'll.
Danny, the majority of the people never replace this sink because it's difficult to remove the carrier.
Yeah, well, you have to take everything apart to get to it, so most people don't.
Okay, Danny, but some people say I don't like try to remove this element because I think that I can break the lower the housing. That's true.
Oh yeah, you can.
It's possible.
Yeah, let me tell you, I've had cases that I had to heat this housing up so much in order to get that out.
Oh, really?
Yamahas are really famous for that. The Verados are really famous for that. See, this one here, if you notice, this one has bolts that you can bolt it in. On the Mercury, it actually has a spanner nut that you can take the spanner nut off, like the Cruisers. Almost kind of like, well, we don't have it here, but I'll show you in the video the difference when we go into the stern drives.
Okay. Danny, I recommend to my customers, because I have a couple of customers that damage the lower unit because they use the torch. And what happened with the O-rings?
Yeah, well, anytime you use a torch, you have to replace the seals.
Of course.
There's no.
But you need to use the torch careful.
Yes. Yes, which I think the students already got a little taste of it. You know, it's the whole idea when you're heating something, you're not staying in one spot.
No,
it's like you're painting.
Yeah, like a painting.
Almost like you're painting.
And separated. No?
It's separate, yeah. You don't want to go right close because then the heat's concentrated. You're trying to heat up an area, so if you go too close, you're only heating up that area. The further out, then you can expand.
But in which specific scenario or situation you use the torch?
Well, in this carrier here, sometimes what happens, salt builds up behind here, and I can't get it out. And if you force it, you could break the housing. You see the housing's not very thick.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is with a torch, I'll heat this area and this area. I go back and forth on both sides.
You preheat a little.
Yeah, it all depends. If it comes
And
out a little bit,
that, with the tool, you try to twist
and
it.
twist and get it out.
Okay. What type of tool you use? The tool
The
that
one up on the screen.
on the screen. Oh, that's perfect.
Now there's different tools. That's my favorite tool, the one on the screen. but most of the tools in the manufacturers, you know, if you're working for a dealership, have that tool.
Okay, each manufacturer have the properly
own-
tool, and the tool enter here, no?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the purpose of that tool is twisted. That's it.
To actually,
Twist
what happens is you have a shaft inside the tool. It grabs and it puts pressure against the prop shaft to pull that out.
Okay. It's like an extractor.
Yeah, an extractor. That's what it is.
Okay. That's
It's the best. The tool that I use is the best. That's kind of fabricated it because it's universal for all. But I mean, for most cases, you have each manufacturer has.
but it's the tool that we have on the
Right,
screen right now.
correct.
All right. Okay. Perfect, Danny. No, not torch if it's possible.
Well, yeah, if no torch if possible, but you're better off using a torch if you think you're going to break it. What I end up doing is I tell my guys at the shop, try it first. If it's not going to come apart, then use the torch. If it comes apart, then, because what happens is, if you heat it, then you got to sand it, you got to prime it, you got to paint it, because you're not going to give it back to the customer like
Correct,
that.
correct.
So it's more work for us if we have to torch it. So if we can get it extracted before we use the torch, then great, and it's phenomenal.
Okay.
But in some case, you got a 50-50 chance.
Yeah, I know.
In the marine business, man, torch is your best friend.
Yeah, I know.
At least
I
on
know,
my end.
I know. But if you use with professionalism.
Yes, you have to. It's like anything else. You got to know how. You have to know how to use your tool.
Correct.
How to apply it.
Correct.
You can use a wrench, right? And you can do it the wrong way too. It's the same thing with torches. Once you learn how to do it, you taught, and you should do a video on that so people can understand that as well.
Okay. We explained in previous episode the procedure to repair the pump, replace the pump, some recommendations about the impeller, how to install the impeller. Okay, recommendations about the play. What happened?
Okay, so obviously you have the shims. That's where the shims
Yeah,
come
the
in.
shims that we
And
explained.
then not only that, if the bearings are worn out, then this wobbles, then you can have a problem.
Okay, those bearings,
Just
you,
right
you refer to those bearings.
Those bearings, correct.
Okay, if those bearings are out, you have a lot of play.
Right.
Okay. According with your experience and without any tool, or only with your hands, how much is too much play? What is too much play?
This should be like no play, just about no play.
No play.
Almost no play. There may just a slight move, but not. But if it's going,
Okay,
yeah.
if you feel play,
Yeah,
that's not good.
Yeah, and you can barely feel the play, then I'm okay with it. It's just
Okay.
when you feel a lot of play is a problem.
All
So
right.
here's another thing you have to people don't realize is when you're driving in the water with this lower union, you actually hit an object in the water. You can twist the shaft, and so you can see the shaft actually have like an S.
Oh yeah,
in it.
yeah.
And what happens is then it puts a lot of stress on
Like
the
the
gears.
chap that we have on the screen right now.
Exactly.
That's
the one we have on the
perfect.
screen.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. A lot of consideration, no?
There's a lot of stuff on these little outboards.
What happened with the people that let the lower unit on the water for a long period of time?
The electrolysis will kill it.
That's not good, no?
No, the electrolysis. It's aluminum. I
This
mean,
is aluminum,
look
yeah.
how thick that aluminum is. Not really that thick.
Yeah,
if you
this
really
is
think about
post corrosion.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll eat all that up, and then it's done. And here's the deal: you got steel gears.
Uh-huh.
You got aluminum. You got aluminum. You know, so it's
Correct.
two different metals.
Danny, now we are going to explain this mechanism, the mechanisms to engage the clutch.
Right. So basically, we have one here out of a counter rotation, but it's okay. The same principle applies. So if you look here, if you see, that's where that shift shaft that
that's
you
the
saw
shift.
that goes in here and moves this. Allows the gauge to engage. See how engaged
Okay.
and disengage, and they can go in the other gear.
Oh, can you repeat here? Okay, with this you engage.
Yeah, engages. What it does is it grabs. There, see how it
Okay.
grabs?
All right.
And then when you hit the neutral or whatever, it disengages. See how that moves the shift shaft?
Correct.
And it engages. That's why you're never supposed to shift an engine when it's not running, because what happens is it might not line up. You can damage the mechanism here.
Okay, and this is the
This is
the
where the
element
shift
that
rod.
goes up and down.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
it.
The shift rod, correct.
Right.
Up and down, and you allow. Can you try
Yeah.
again?
So
Okay. Okay.
See?
That's perfect. That's perfect.
So now, on this case, and this is the same thing, if you really look at it, it's the same deal. The only difference is this is a standard rotation, this is a counter rotation. So let me explain a little bit on the counter rotation. The only difference between the standard and the counter is that you actually have another shaft this goes into, which
Okay.
gives you that.
Yeah, correct. And enter in those splines.
Exactly.
Okay, that's
Okay,
perfect.
that's the only difference. But that's how the shifting mechanism works. So now if you look at this gear here, You can see this is what I was talking about, the box.
Okay. All right. And look at this, completely rounded, huh?
Yeah, it's rounded out. It's damaged.
Okay.
Especially this was underwater.
This is the dark color.
Right. And this is how it holds. If you look in here, here's the pin that holds it to the shaft. Because if you look here, look at the groove.
Ah, that groove.
See the groove?
Yeah.
That's what that's for.
Ah, perfect. Let me I show Danny, Diego. You see that groove? And this.
That's how it slides.
Ah, that one slides over there through that groove.
Right.
All right, that is moving like this to that groove. Oh, perfect.
Okay.
Great mechanism. Simple.
Yep, very simple. And then all you have is nothing but bearings inside here.
Okay. And once again, the enemy is humidity in that area.
This is the worst enemies we have is right here with all this corrosion.
Correct.
Salt water is your worst enemy. But other than that, everything else is pretty the same.
Correct. Huh, incredible.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, that's incredible. Danny, we have basically two types of mechanisms. One is for Johnson and Suzuki.
Suzuki, Yamaha, everybody have their own system.
The shift shaft.
They have the shift shaft, vertical, but it twists. Johnson Everett is the only one that goes up and down.
Okay.
But as far as everybody else, it twists. So what happens is you have the shaft come in here, and just think of a little piece like this, and it has a spline. And so when you twist it, it pulls or it pushes, and that's all it does. And so what happens is when you're rebuilding the gear case, it's very common. People that don't put that properly, and they break that little U shape.
Oh, okay. The Mercury move like this.
Yes, it's all it is a gear that goes, a little thing that moves in and out. Compared to the Everett one, it pushes, and when it pull up, it pulls in.
Down. Okay, perfect.
That's the difference.
And the other one was the electronic mechanism that you.
Yeah, the electric shift.
Exactly.
Right. The electric shift is basically an actuator. All it does is what it does is there's a rod that connects to the shift rod, and it shifts.
That we explained in this slide. What is this, Danny?
This is actually what the shift actuator is. This is what shifts the engine. So if you took the bolts out and you popped it off.
Oh, wonderful. This is a solenoid.
It's a solenoid.
Ah, look at this. This can enter.
If you look into the rod.
Enter into the rod. The top of the rod have a groove, no?
Yes, it has actually, it's an octagon. So if you look here,
enter over there. Enter over there. And this one goes up and down,
Correct.
up and down. It's a solenoid.
And it's dry. If you notice, there's a seal on the bottom, and this is sealed off, so no water gets into it.
No water.
Or oil.
Or not, yeah, of course. For that reason, they have a label and say, do not fill with oil.
Correct.
If not, you damage
the unit because you have the circuit board.
Oh, of course. Look at the circuit board of the unit. This is a perfect solenoid.
Yep.
And it's controlled by the computer.
And the control box.
And the shift control.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, on the system that controls all the electrical, there's two systems. You have two NEMA networks. You have a private network and a public network. The private network controls all the engine information, and the public network is basically the standard NEMA system.
The NEMA system. Right. All right. Perfect. And that's the seal to avoid that the humidity and oil enter over there. This one should be completely dry. Only a little lubrication here.
Yeah, just a little bit of grease only for the rod. And then there's a special tool that we measure the height according to the specs of the manufacturer.
Exactly, because this one should be,
This is standard set, and then that one is the one where you make the adjustment.
Oh, wonderful.
And how that works is you have a pin that goes through, and it moves the clutch dog for you.
Correct. In other words, in this particular engine, E-Tech, we have the drive shaft, electronic.
Shift.
It's not mechanical. Glenn, can you explain why this element is too sensitive in terms of calibration?
Well, this is set, and the calibration will be on the inside.
On the inside, yeah. All right.
And it's got to be.
It's a bolt that you calibrate up and down.
Correct.
Over there. Right.
Inside.
Like the picture that you have on the screen.
Correct.
And you turn it down or up. And what happens if the calibration is not in the point recommended?
Well, it moves what we call a clutch dog, and if it's not adjusted properly,
correct.
As it's just running, like if it's running in neutral, the gears might be just touching, and then it makes a noise. and then metal, and then you blow the
Or
job.
it's difficult when you engage the gear, you hear the click.
Yeah, you can't slam it in, right? You move it just a little bit to be in gear, then reverse, you gotta go way back.
Correct.
So you gotta bring that in the middle.
And this one should be calibrated with this bolt, the bolt that you have on
With
the
that
screen
bolt down
on top.
there. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That bolt should be calibrated up and down,
Up and down.
up and down.
Or there's a gauge you set on top of this.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then you know if you got it right.
Yeah.
If not, you take it out again, adjust again.
Of course, you need to remove the lower unit
Right.
to calibrate that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If you run the engine for a long period of time and properly calibrated, you can damage the lower unit.
Oh, yeah, definitely the gears. I mean, because they'd be grinding against one another.
Uh-huh.
When you gotta put it in gear or out of gear.
Correct.
It's just, what you're doing if it's out of calibration, you're just about touching them, then it just wearing the gear, metal in the oil.
Correct, correct. In that case, if you take a sample of the oil of the lower unit and you analyze that sample, you found that too much chromium, too much iron levels.
Correct.
Because the metals are
You see the little metal chips floating in the oil.
correct. Exactly. If you expose the oil in a napkins, you see the metals.
Yeah. On the drain, when you drain the gear oil,
Correct.
it has like a little magnet.
Yeah,
on
and the
end of
magnet is-
And then you see the metal right on that.
Correct, on the magnet.
And you know you got something wrong. The
Yeah.
bearing, shim,
Chims.
this ain't adjusted properly.
Correct. Because this engine is fully electronic, it's controlled by the computer, fuel system, lubrication system. All the systems are controlled by the computer. That calibration is controlled on the computer?
You can't control the calibration,
Uh-huh.
but it will tell you the calibration.
Oh.
So if it's out of calibration, a code will come up and it will say something. that can
And you
be-
have a check engine light.
check engine light.
When you connect the scanner, immediately you have that code related with the calibration.
Most of the time, if you've been using the boat and it's reading normal, everything's fine, and then the light comes on, you have a problem other than calibration.
Yeah. Oh, this is exclusive for this type of engine, for the E-Tech.
At least it tells you that you have something wrong. Get it fixed before you run into more damage, more money.